Hello and welcome to the third episode, learning how to fill in the colors for one of your rough draft squares. Now remember that our goal is to add this amount of white and this amount of black. Now we are working with a white gel pen that looks like this, a V5 pen that looks like this, and a ballpoint pen that looks like this. We do have two other pens that come in your block, but they're just a little too thick for what we are working with since the size is so small. Now we are going to get started with white, and you are only choosing one square that you want to work on. Now if your pen is not going very well, like if it's not giving you very much ink, you can use your hand. I know that's like something your parents tell you not to do, but you can prep the pen on the surface of your hand, and sometimes that will help it to get started. Now I'm going to just go through and start finding some areas that would be naturally white. So if there's something in your image where you're like, yes, that could be filled in white, then that is a good place to start. So I'm just going to go through and fill in just a couple of areas, and my goal is to try to fill in this amount of white in this square. So I really need to consider how I'm going to do that. Now I might go through and fill in like some larger areas, some things that would actually be naturally white. I could also think of like what textures I might be able to add. Maybe I would add some white to the back of my badminton racket. So we're just like thinking through how we could do this, and notice that the small circle method of filling is much easier to use than trying to use like long lines to fill in here. So on your rough draft, it does not need to be perfect. I just need to be able to see which parts you're planning to make white. Now I might go through and add some white to like the crust of my pizza, and there's all kinds of things that you could plan for the background. Now the background is going to be, the gray is representing the color of your tile that you'll receive, and that will be the same as the table color you're sitting at. And the black is going to be represented an even amount as well. So we're trying to break it down into 3 even amounts of those colors. The color from the background of your square, the color of white that we're adding with the gel pen, and the amount of black we're adding with the V5 and ballpoint. Now, as you are finishing this up, please make sure that you cap your white gel pen before you continue on. They do dry out quickly, and if you come across a gel pen that's not working, that you can't get to prep, just bring it up to me. I'll see if I can revive it, and if not, I'll swap it out for you with a new one. Since these do have to sit all summer, sometimes they are a little dried out. Now that I've got a little bit of white added, and I probably will still need to come in for a little bit more, I am going to start coming in with my V5. And I need to think where I'm going to fill in some black. So I'm going to fill in the paintbrush and maybe just start outlining a couple of things. I could fill in the coffee in my coffee mug. So I'm just trying to think of like where I would naturally see some black coming in. Maybe I would now come across the top of my badminton racket. I could fill in the actual racket itself and do that really nice and neatly. And then I could fill in the handle, maybe leave a little bit of like the tape that's always at the bottom there. And then I could add the lines. So that's a way I could start adding some black back into this. Something else that I could do, I could consider adding some shading with my black V5. Now you could use your V5 or your ballpoint pen for shading. So let me show you both. I am going to go through, and on the side of my coffee cup, I could add in a small amount of black by taking this pen, and maybe the shadow will be coming from this side. So I'm going to turn my paper. I think it's easier to draw a curve going in the direction that kind of naturally follows your hand. So I'm starting on the edge here, and then I'm going to make these lines on the side close together and then slowly more spaced apart. And that is a way that you could slowly add in some black with your V5. It does fill it a little bit more solidly than it would if we were using our ballpoint. Now let me show you what that looks like. I might give my hearts an outline with my black, and then I could come in with my ballpoint and give them a more subtle amount of shading. So I can take my ballpoint and just kind of like add little kind of scribbly techniques and fade it out. And I can just fade it by lightening my pressure, which is kind of cool. With our ballpoint, you almost have like pencil techniques that you can use with this pen, which is kind of unusual for working with pens and is really enjoyable because it's very similar to working with a drawing pencil or any regular pencil. You can change the value by pressing lighter and lighter and lighter. So now I'm starting to get a little bit more even amount of filling. I think I probably still need more black, and I'm just kind of like looking at my square and thinking, am I even in my colors yet? And right now, I definitely have way more gray than I do white or black. So I still need to keep adding. Now, looking at mine, I think I probably do still need quite a bit more white. And I think a good way to solve that would be to go through and decide what sections could still use some white, or if I want to fill in the ribbons with white. So maybe I'll do that. And as you get started, again, it is very helpful to prep your pen and use small, light, gentle circles to be able to actually get that pen going. Sometimes people think their pens are dead when really they just need to use lighter pressure and small little circles to get it going. Now here is a little bit of white added in, and I would just continue going back and forth between adding black and white until I have an even amount. Just this amount of white should be visible, and this amount of black should be visible, and this amount of gray should be visible. And that is going to be our first draft. Good luck. Thanks for watching.